This is Kieran, Coach's Corner Chats, and today I'm excited. I've got Cory Reinard on with me today. Cory, give us a little background of what you're up to, where you've been, and what have you.
All right, so I've been coaching for about 20 years now. And the last 10 years, I coached Hubbard High School soccer at the varsity level. So that's been the last 10 years, and it's been going really good for us here. But also I coach I started the Eagle Academy page or on our Facebook thing, and it started out as young 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds, up to like 14, getting some extra training for them. So doing extra training for our community program. And then from there, it kind of fell off a little bit with, just getting busy and my own family and things like that. And so I turned it into more of like just being me, kind of just getting my information out, like how I coach, kind of being transparent, just and educating parents, of our youth players, of why we do the things we do at the high school level and what we need to see more of, at the youth levels. And kind of talking about what our, basically our philosophies at the high school and what we want to see, just to get things up at the high school level a little bit more. So I do that. Then I also train other community programs. I do some training with them for the last couple of years. So just running into our team trainings with them. So kind of do a lot, but yeah, it's exciting.
So what things do you do to share your visions and what have you with parents, and what type of things do you utilize?
So I'll do, so for the coaches or parents on our Facebook page was, and I still do, is just session design, like what our sessions look like, maybe how to use a 3v1 rondo or 4v0 rondo, maybe building out of the back, a little bit more advanced, like for the older groups of like, I like to do, like a rotation and interchanges of players and what that might look like. And then, attacking patterns, what attacking patterns we do. So I put a lot of just sessions out there, and then I my own thoughts about kind of the player first. It doesn't need to be all win at all costs, or, let's develop the players and leave the winning to the 14 and up, like I understand it builds a winning mentality for these kids, but that's more for the parents than it is for the kids. So I talk a lot about that in there. Sometimes I go a little, pointing fingers, not at individual people, but I kind of know who they are. So I do a little bit of that just because, as high school coaches, we take a lot of flack, and so we see the end of it. So someone's got to do it from the beginning. And if we're going to get pointed at the end, then we got to kind of say, well, then you want to see more at the end, then we got to do this more stuff down at the beginning.
Right on. I was just going to say, how open are people to suggestions of like style of play or like session planning and what have you? How have they accepted that stuff?
I don't get a whole lot. I mean, like I know people read it and stuff. I'll get the ones who are soccer people who grew up playing soccer, or people who are now parents who I've coached at some point, or coming through wanting to coach and stuff, who do make comments here and there. But I think people are seeing what we're looking for, and that's all I want. You don't have to like what I said, or you don't have to like the comments. You don't have to comment back, but just read. Take a moment and read. So again, because I'm being transparent to say, this is why we are doing this stuff at the end. So as the kids are coming through, I just want them to realize, when you see us doing a certain drill or a certain playing style, you should be able to see this on the field. And don't tell my central defensive mid to push all the way up to our opponent's 18-yard box, because it's not going to work. We need him to hold back and be an anchor,
Exactly.
So it's kind of those things.
So understanding roles and responsibilities.
Right. Yep.
And the other thing that I'm hearing is you've used the word community a few times. Mm-hmm. So what kind of was was the reason for going beyond, like, I'm not just going to focus on my 9 through 12 program players, and you now are starting to, sounds like, trying to build kind of a brand or an identity within the entire community?
Right. So I coach at the town I grew up in, went to school in, played in. So from the youth levels all the way up. So this is, it's my town. So I know when we talk about culture, like, this is my culture. This is my, where I put all my thoughts in. Like, I very rarely, unless we're doing a fundraiser, try to charge our kids, or our families, because I want to build this up. I started out, so 20 years ago, I started out as our 7th and 8th grade coach. So we started out in the school, and so I was able to help build in there. And so I did that for about 10 years. And then that I became the high school coach. So I actually got to see some of those players play, and then I actually got to coach some of those players again. So that was my whole purpose, is so then, because I was down there, I've done it, there, and saw what that can do. Yep. Having a great foundation. So then I was, doing the high school coaching and still trying to run this, certain things, camps and stuff. And then we started the Eagle Academy. But the whole, it changed for us the last couple of years, is because we're not seeing those same type of players come in. We started out with probably, I would say, when I first started coaching high school, even when I was at the 7th and 8th grade, we had, I would say, at least 13, 14 kids every single year playing club. Mm-hmm. And then drop off. Maybe we only had like 7 or 8 for like maybe a year or two, but then it bumped back up. All these last 2 years, after we had a really good group of core kids graduate who all played club, these last 2 years, the club kids have dropped off. The kids who are playing indoor all year round, even with us, very active, has dropped off. And this is just on the boys' side. The girls' side was even harder and worse. We're getting around about 40 kids come out every single year. And that actually, I would say about 10 of them drop off by the time we start the season on their own. I've never had to cut a kid. Okay. They just do that on their own. On the girls' side, they're getting maybe 29, 30 kids. And again, obviously the quality is not always there. So we're trying to really build both the boys, girls side. For the first time in my life, I'm coaching to be, so I've always been, give. I'm actually coaching for personal reasons now. My daughters are 7 and 5, and they're coming through. And, so now I want to really make sure they have something too, a good base. I want this to go away.
Any ideas as to why maybe there's a drop in, like, why players are saying, I don't want to do the club thing, or maybe I need a break in the winter, or what have you?
Right. We've been trying to figure that out for years, and why it's definitely going on. A lot of it, I think, is so, like, with our community, I would say more so, so I know that is our rec league or our grassroots league is more fun for all. Our travel community club is more on the opposite end of the spectrum, which is win at all cost. So within there's no happy medium. Yeah. So the fun for all end up just, I can't hack it at high school. I don't even want to try. Boom, drop off. The ones are win at all cost. They come out, but then they realize, well, the coaches up here are looking at not only skill, not only physical, but we're also looking at the social and psychological aspects of the game as well. Can you retain this information? Are you going to be a team player? So then we see guys, kind of fall backwards, or, not necessarily fit into what they thought they were going to, because it was let the fastest kid, let the strongest kid, and even inviting kids from other communities to come in, so we can win.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, some of the points you made about before. Sometimes you can rely on players just filling your cabinet of talent. And clearly that's like, I'm going through the same type of thing. Like, we're trying to build up like interest in the program and what have you. And I'm in the same boat of, I'm going to have to leave the school grounds and go to parks that are closer to some of my players and create opportunities for open fields or for little things like that. So I think it's cool to hear the idea of, like, you've just realized just saying that we have high school soccer is not enough of a carrot to dangle in front of these kids.
Right. Yeah. I was going to say, we have, like, I mean, we do have a strong soccer culture here and a strong need. So our school is like, we compete very well within our conferences and within the districts and stuff, and across pretty much all sports. And it's kind of an expectation, which is great to have, but not at the lower levels. Let's build there, and that's what we're trying to create.
Yeah, that's awesome. So if you can get it to go beyond grade 9, if it starts trickling down at 8th and 7th and so on, I think that's really cool. The other thing I heard you bring up was when kids come to my program, yeah, we're looking at your skill, we're looking at your athleticism, but then you talked about, like, the social side and then the mental side. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
So, I mean, and like most coaches, I would, assume is that everybody wants to have a team culture themselves. And so we want everybody to be a team player. We want everybody to be empathetic with each other. We want everybody to, get out there and teach each other, because, if the kids our young players are teaching each other, even down inside the younger kids in the community, they're also picking up and learning how to be great leaders. So we really want that. So that's more your social and psychological on the and your mental side. So it also teaches them, like a discipline as well as. So I got to be on my game for the younger kids, so when I'm teaching them, and trying to modeling certain behaviors. So that's that part. And we don't want kids to come into our program who, I'm the best. And we actually had a kid who probably, he's a great soccer player, phenomenal soccer player. He plays at one of our local clubs, probably one of the best players in our area over the last couple of years. He played for us. He played 2 years with us, and his junior year decided he wasn't coming out. Now, I don't know what the expectations were. I'm not chasing a kid, because you got to want to be a part of our team.
Yeah.
I think a lot of our players were kind of, at first, were like, why aren't we getting him? Why aren't you going after him? But then realized, if he doesn't want to be here, we don't want him either. So we really honed that in as well. It's like, you got to want to be here, and this is who our team is, and we're going to, give, as coaches, 100% to you guys, and you give 100% back to us. So we do a lot of that. And then, like, just on the we do a lot. So, like, obviously with COVID this year, we did a lot of Zoom calls, and we did a lot of game breakdown and teaching our players, even some of our 6th and 7th graders. We invited them in, and I actually did separate sessions with them on using video, so game and breaking down analysis. So using that to help them, increase their knowledge of the game. So we kind of went that route with it as well.
I didn't really even think about that, because we post, like, all our games on Huddle and whatever, and we say, hey, go watch the game. But I don't know if anyone, and I think that's an interesting point you made of how as a player should I be watching this? Am I just going to be watching for the cool pass or the nutmeg, or do I zoom forward to the goal that was scored? Or do I start looking at maybe what created the goal, or what was the breakdown, or where I could be position-wise and stuff? So it's kind of cool that you're kind of throwing out, like, here's some questions that should be going through your head. So what was really cool is about 2-3 weeks ago, one of my players, and he sat through, a lot of the Zooms, and he actually did really paid attention, and we sent some of the guys videos and put them in groups, and he did a really great job, him and his team members. I think it was a group of 5 or 6, of analyzing a game. So about 3 weeks ago, he gets in contact with me. He's like, hey, coach, what system do you think we're going to play next year? And I said, well, we're thinking about, different formations and stuff. I said, but, I talked a lot about, hey, it's not about the formations, it's about the roles and responsibilities of what you're doing in those when you're on the field. And he's like, yeah, he goes, I get it. I was watching the games, and he goes,
And last year we played we started off with the 4-3-3, and then we ended up with playing like a 4-5-1. So it changed a bit, but the two wingers ended up being, they were wing strikers, but they still had to drop them back into the midfield and help them out to really, it changed through the thirds what our formation looked like because of roles. And he goes, I understand what you're saying. He says, we had no support in the back. He goes, we looked like, when I'm watching the video, like a 4-3-3 the whole game, no matter what. And he says, even though every single practice we went through and we did a 4-5-1 and we worked on the roles and responsibility, he goes, when you actually watch the game, the roles of certain players, they never did what they were supposed to do. And he goes, I get that and I see that now. And he goes, so he actually started breaking down and saying the spaces that they should have gone into and, what they should have been doing, how they should have been supporting each other, which is really cool to us because he's actually one of our captains and a leader for us.
So when they were in their little groups of, 5 to 6 and they broke it down, was there then some type of like a presentation that they did with it or?
Yeah. So we asked them to come back and give us so what we did is we actually gave them we wanted them to break down they were a defensive group. So we wanted them to break down how a team, what their patterns were of playing out of the back. And so where did they mostly play? What did the wing backs look like when they played out of the back? Where did the center backs go? How did the 6 and the 8 and the 10 support? So we really focused on that. And so they had to break down those movements and roles and responsibility of those players and give us kind of like a heat map of where they were moving. So they had to do their best at that. And honestly, they did a great job. Some of them actually broke down. They actually gave us video, paused it, talked about it, and then also gave us clips of the players.
I love the idea of using questioning to kind of lead them, not say, hey, here's what I want, because like, hey, watch the wing, some about the positioning, but they had to kind of come up with their own like scenario. And like you would think those are things that they have to be looking during the game. So I'm sure as they play teams, they start seeing a wing back and they see his position like, oh, his positioning means he's going to have to play right back to the keeper because there's no way he can turn or little things like that. Right.
So something interesting too is it took it one step further. So then we made them, within those groups, we did actually, what was the problem that you mainly saw? So like if it was playing out of the back and they struggled to play out of the back, now they had to come up with a session. And we went through session design and come up with a session. So when we were first able to go back to playing, getting our whole team together, they had to run a session with their teammates. And it was really cool.
Huh.
And it went both ways because now they see how, as coaches, maybe it's just an assistant and a head coach, how we have to get everything set up, how much time it takes to set up, how much time it gets everybody organized, explain the session and keep it running and keep a flow. So they got to see that in there. And it was mainly our captains who ran each one. So we actually put leaders in each group. So we had a defensive leaders, we had a goalkeeper leader, we had midfield leaders, and we had striker leaders. And all of them had to run their own sessions.
That's really cool. Plus, I think what kids struggle with at times is giving, I guess I'd call it constructive criticism during games of where they need to be. And that's a great way for them to kind of role model and how you can give it in a way that's supportive and encouraging. Mm-hmm. Number 2, for the person getting the feedback, like talk about body shape or, hey, you need to be here next time, and be able to take it and not, because I know that sometimes that can be a weird dynamic when you're giving information and receiving. Right.
Yeah, and that's what we were trying to do. So just get them so they can communicate with each other and accept, like if their teammate is telling them kind of feedback or some kind, even if they thought it was criticism, even though it really wasn't. They were just trying to get their session to run smoothly for the most part. But getting their session to run smoothly meant that they had to change body positioning, change spatial positioning of players and try to move them around a little bit. Which is really cool. So, and then what we did there is we gave them an opportunity to send us a session if there was any changes they wanted to make within that session too. and only I think 2 of the groups actually changed their session, which is really cool. So to make it like changing the spacing, changing the numbers, changing like the shape of the actual drill, it was really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome where they got to look at a kind of a topic, kind of see what's going on. Then there was the idea of, do you see any issues within what's going on? And then the idea of, can you problem solve? And now can we take it to the field and actually execute and see if we can fix that? Because that was one of the things that I started to realize a little bit more during the season last year, was getting player input, like at half times or during games or like little break, when the ball goes out and it's a goal kick, of getting like, hey, does it feel right how we've got our 3 set up in the midfield, or do we need to go and move like you talked about earlier, my defensive mid, is he pushing too far forward? And then saying, hey, why are you pushing so far forward? Well, coach, I see, and that kind of thing. Is that something you love having as well?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we try to do a lot of input from our players. Myself, my assistant, we can talk forever, But so we tried the last couple of years is, hey, we got to stop how much we talk. We got to give this back to the players, and that's the way, because we're both in the same exact field. We're both working the behavioral health field. So it is about the individual, the player. And so we bring that back, and it's about the players themselves. But we tend to want to give all the information. So what we thought was, you fall into a trap of being the expert. And when you fall in the trap of being the expert, that takes away from the creativity and the learning of the actual players, or, the individuals themselves. So we went back and said, okay, we're going to try to limit down to 30 seconds to a minute, just hit these main points. So before a game, we give objectives, what we wanted to see, and that usually is based off of what we have done in training. So if maybe it's just a win more 50-50 balls in the middle third, or once we create more opportunities to get behind the defensive line in the final third, and maybe then we give a defensive one, might be, can we limit space behind our back line, like not let them play through the back line. So then maybe we just go back and we address that at the beginning of the game as before we go out. And then as we come into halftime, hey, we have these 3 objectives. This is what we're seeing. Then we give the defense a chance, or the goalkeeper a chance to talk about maybe what they're seeing with that one objective. Maybe the midfielders, defenders, strikers all get to talk about the midfield objective, and then we give the strikers a chance, or midfielders a chance to talk about the final objective. So it gives it all back to them. There's a lot more rules, or a lot more responsibility within them, and then they can we give them the opportunity. We walk away, and then they can talk about any tactical changes that maybe we didn't discuss already, because it's their game. See it right in front of them.
How has giving more ownership to the players been like for you as a coach?
I love it. Like, honestly, it's I don't want to say it's easier, because you feel like you're gotta constantly remind them, but in a way it is. Like, it does take some weight off your shoulders as well, because it's more about teaching now than it is about, because when we all get into coaching, the first thing we want to do is usually, no matter what level, is formations and tactics and this and that. Yeah. And then we probably move into more of, okay, now it's about our actual training sessions. How can we get this so we're taking the training session more into the actual game, and then it becomes more about the person, and then finally it becomes about being about the person, is about teaching the person and giving them freedom and letting them meeting their motivations. So for me, it was great, to be able to sit back, and just that evolution for me.
That's so cool. That's one of the things I've shared too, is when I first got the job, a year ago now, my first thing I did was I started looking at tactics. I was like, here's how we're going to play. And then all this. And then when I finally started mingling with the boys and working with them and stuff, I started realizing, like, man, this is beyond tactics and stuff. There's so much more that's important in, like, the chemistry and the idea of buying in. And so I think it's really cool that the ideas that you're talking about the communication, giving them more ownership and all those types of things. I can see where that would be a huge plus moving forward for you all. Hey, talking about moving forward. So we just survived COVID. What do you do now going into this off season? What does your high school program kind of look like for building toward next fall?
So our high school sports actually just in our community or our school just last week was just able to start up again.
Yeah.
We were closed down, like nobody was playing in our county. So basketball, wrestling, all that, nobody was doing anything. The club system are still going for the most part. So some of our players are in club, but we couldn't really do anything. So I could have had Zoom meetings and stuff. I usually like to give our players a pretty good break. Once our indoor starts, we try to get them playing at a local facility over here that we play. I think we play 77 in there. So we just now got our teams organized. We'll have a varsity team, which is basically all returning players will play in the varsity league. And then we have our JV, which is our incoming freshmen. And I really coach because we can coach the incoming freshmen. So I really focus on them for myself. Just on the coaching points I want to make and stuff. And I put them in like challenging situations. And I tell them all the time, like in the 7v7, I might make you guys play a 4-2. Within that space. I might make you guys play a 3-3. So I'm really going to put you in different situations, and it's all about the spacing and our movements of players and stuff. So I would sometimes even put them in kind of like a 4-3-1, just so, again, because I'm talking about rules, what I want to see them do, so that in the 1-3-1 the three mids have to drop back and help out with the defenders and have to get up and help out with the strikers, about rules. So I focus on that. Once we're able to get into the gym, if we're able to, we'll start doing futsal training. We'll do that, and we'll try to get into some futsal leagues if we possibly can. I'll start getting, all the boys are asking for Zoom meetings here. Get those going. Talking, about game analysis, tactics, and we do a lot on growth mindset as well. So we really focused last year during COVID on the first part of it on growth mindset with our players. So we'll do some of that stuff. And I'm really, in the past, I really wasn't, like, we've gotten into the weight room and stuff as strength and conditioning, but we always really focused on more body weight, getting out, into onto the field, doing like plyometrics, but really trying to focus on everything with the ball, and changing body positioning and stuff like that. But as I'm getting more and more kids who aren't playing club, like, I'm really starting to think that, okay, now we got to kind of go the typical high school way of, strength and conditioning, and just get them going. Because our club programs both have strength and conditioning within them. Okay. So they focus on that stuff as well. So we really didn't have to, but to 75% of our main players. And the other ones who didn't do club typically really didn't come out during weight training and stuff like that either. They just did the indoor stuff. Okay. Thinking about maybe having to get back in, talk to our school and see if we can get our strength and conditioning coach to come in and help them work with our boys.
Right on. That's one of the things I'm kind of back and forth with, of, do I need to do more time on the field with them, where they're just getting lots of touches and decision making and communication, and continue to just rapid fire that and get more bang for my buck that way? Or do I need to work in some more of that strength side of it? So that's it. We're always that kind of weird balance of how much
it is
with that. The one thing you talked about was the growth mindset. So what is, like, you hear that word or those two words, what is that growth mindset? What's that mean within your program?
So, we talk about, the fixed mindset, and we kind of talk about which, what's a fixed mindset player. And that's we give them the opportunity to answer, and they say, what's the player who blames the referee for a bad call? It's the player who, if he doesn't get the ball, he's yelling at you. It's the player who shows up late for practice. Or shows up just on time, and it's the player who's always yelling at each other, the other players. the one who's, making bully comments or, inappropriate comments. It's the player who doesn't want to take on what the coach is saying or follow the rules and responsibilities. So that's the fixed mindset. Does not want to learn, does not want to, gain anything from it. It's just there because they want, don't want to say just there, but they're there. They want to play and they want to showcase their skill. That's, the me, idea. And then growth mindset, always wanting to learn, listens, all eyes are right on the coach, helping each other, helping other players. And we had this one player, and he is the epitome of what we were looking for as a growth mindset. We early on noticed that when we had our junior high kids come up, he would go out and he'd walk away from his group and go and work with the younger kids and teach them, what we're like he says, this is what coach is saying. He's talking about, receiving across your body, opening up your body, taking a few steps backwards to receive so you're creating space for yourself. He goes, and then putting a little bit more pace so that your teammate can create space for himself, changing your angles. It's like he jumped in and did this with these guys. That's what we want, someone who's willing to teach, willing to learn, willing to put part of his development, not necessarily on the line, because he actually got a whole lot out of it, as well. So being able to teach those things, he still was developing. The first one to speak up as far as when there's behavior that was undesirable, so that to us is, what we're looking for. That's growth mindset. And we ask that from the whole team.
That's awesome. That is so cool. So you had mentioned earlier too, you're venturing into the world of girls soccer, with your girls. So have you had a chance to start with that, or have you done any of this type of coaching with them yet?
I have worked with, girls here and there, just on more of like camp trainings. Okay. But the first time I'm really getting into, and we do kind of co-ed with our Eagle Academy, but it really, so working with the girls is, you definitely change your approach, and it's not the approach of, oh, well, they're girls. It's the approach of, I'm starting to learn, like my niece, she's in high school, and I think you got to coach them a little bit differently. And it's not necessarily, again, because they're girls, it's because of, we're all different people, and boys and girls are different people. You can be hard and strong on them, but being hard and strong on them and being hard and strong on the boys are probably two different hard and strong. Yeah. So learning that, I'm not very, I try to be very person-centered. So I'm very rarely going to yell at anybody anyways. Even if you really make me mad, I'm probably not yelling at you. Yeah. I don't swear. So it was a funny little couple of years ago. My nephew, he was a senior this year, and he just still told me the other day, he goes, hey, the weirdest moment we ever had was when we were losing in a game, and at halftime you came over and you swore at us. And I said, well, and he goes, we were all chuckling inside, but didn't want to laugh because you swore. Mad. And I'm like, I said, I know. I said, actually, I said to my assistant coach on the way over, Andrew, hey, watch, I'm going to go over and I'm going to actually swear at them, just want to see what they're get something from them. So, but I'm not going to go do that with the girls either way, but I like, working with the younger kids. I really enjoy it. It's a fresh of breath air sometimes. So
yeah, I'm sure they keep you on your toes.
Yes. Yeah, yes.
What have you said? They're 5 and 7.
So my daughters are 5 and 7. Yes.
So is that more of 4v4, kind of the smaller sided game type of setup?
Yeah, we do a lot of 4 versus 4 in our rec league that we did this year with them. I think they were playing 6v6 in those two age groups. Okay. And we asked them to do more 4v4. So with our setup in the Eagle Academy, we were actually doing 4 versus 4. And then sometimes it goes off of numbers, how many actually show up. So sometimes it is 4 versus 5 if we have to. But we split them into different groups and try to get 3 fields going as we do that. So there might be some overloads in some groups, but we're fine with that because, it's still kids are getting a lot of touches on the ball. They're having to, find space, and that's been one of the biggest things we've been focusing on is utilizing 2 to 3 moves, that they can use to get out of traffic into space, and can they find it? And the evolution of them doing from the first couple weeks, like 8 weeks ago, to where they were last week or 2 weeks ago was huge. Just the finding space, not dribbling into the crowd, and the 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds, it's very egocentric. So I want to get the ball and I go, and we don't discourage that. In fact, I'm sitting there saying, you get the ball and you have space in front, go, 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 go to goal. I don't want them turning and passing the ball or anything. I want them getting the ball, go to goal. Even if they're at their own goal at the other end and you find space, dribble and go to goal. But when you start to see them start sharing the ball a little bit, because then now they're gaining a little bit and they recognize themselves, oh, if I do pass. So you see that sharing concept start coming out, which is nice.
That's awesome. I love the idea of just, it sounds like too, almost the game itself becomes the teacher a little bit. You start realizing if I keep going straight, I'm going to keep running into that defender. So at some point, maybe I should start utilizing maybe an outside touch or some type of move to get away. Or like what happens, I'm sure, is that the kid that's really good, everyone wants to go guard that person. So then he at some point realizes, hey, there's 4 opponents on me, or defenders. There's my teammate over there. I'll just play it to them.
Yeah, we find that a lot. So there's been times where on one end, the dominant players, if there's a dominant player on both, they just outweigh each other and they just go back and forth. They guard each other, and then there's a lot of 1 versus 1s with these other 3 kids maybe in the background running around chasing. But then you have the ones, because it's cool because like my daughter isn't one who's going to get the ball and dribble towards the goal. She's going to kind of look for a pass and look for space, but she likes to be a defender. So this is my older daughter. So she will sit back and watch and wait for that person, to maybe the more dominant player, to get the ball, and boom, she's right up on her. And we have 2 or 3 other players within that group who think that way as well, and boom, they're waiting for that person right up on them and trying to steal the ball off of them. So it's really cool. So you do start to see their characteristics and their personalities come out in here, as they go. And they problem solve.
That is so cool, because I know going back when my kids were younger, there was the parents would freak out if their kid wasn't running to the ball. But there are always there's that little mesh of kids, and then there's this one or two kind of chilling on the outside. And people always thought, well, they just didn't want to play. But no, kind of like you said, no, I'm watching the game, and I know at some point either the ball's going to pop out, and then I'm going to have it with no one around me, or if the player does make it out, I'm going to go defend him really quickly, which is a cool thing for them to already recognize.
Right. So we go back to my Eagle Academy page. I'm actually posting things on there about that for all the coaches or the parents and stuff, is that just because a kid doesn't look like they're active in the game, or they're only active part of the game, they're sitting back and watching. First of all, maybe they don't want to get in the crowd and get hurt. Or maybe they're waiting for that ball to pop out so they can get it and go to goal, or to keep, because they're starting to pick up and learn the concepts and are realizing there's no need to be inside that big beehive,
Right on.
And I actually pointed that out to my cousins, one of my other cousins. His daughter plays in our rec league, and we've been trying to get them to come over to the Eagle, start doing some training with the Eagle Academy. He's like, oh no, she's not ready. Come watch her play. And so I watched her play, and I said, you got it wrong. I said, she is sitting back and she's, watching and thinking, and I said, and I can tell you why, because she is watching, she's moving her head back and forth, and she's moving and shifting her body with the ball. Maybe she's up in there. Maybe she's waiting for the defense or the attacker to come towards her. I said, but when they do, she's right up on their hip to hip and trying to steal that ball off them. I said, so it's not that she's not engaged, it's that she's thinking about how she's going to engage.
That's so awesome. I think those conversations, and just even putting that in, like you talked about transparency earlier, just little things, little nuggets like that people don't think about because they get so focused on the ball has to be in the back of the net, and there's so much more to it. And especially at that age, people get so caught up on the kid with the ball, but you don't. And that's another thing too, for coaching wise, I've gotten better at is you get so locked in on this, but you start realizing what's the other three players that are they moving to create space? Like you were talking about earlier, body position, like are those things occurring to help the person with the ball on there? Is it called Eagles Academy? Is that the mascot for the high school or?
Yeah, so our mascot is an eagle, and just a shout out to our Hubbard Eagle. He was actually the mascot of the nation, of national mascot of the year, like in 2019. So just a shout out. I mean, that's a huge thing for us, here at Hubbard. But yeah, we're the Eagles, and so we just took the Eagle concept, our mascot, and made it the Eagles Soccer Academy.
And so then, does your soccer academy? Does it just work on there's a park you guys do this stuff at, or?
Yeah, so we actually have a couple different parks within our community that have field set up. Okay. One of them is the one our travel program uses. So we go there. That's where we did a lot of our weekly sessions was there. And now that we're, with the weather and everything, we can't be outside. So we do now have, within about 5 minutes from our town, there's a soccer facility that's set up. And it's a club team. It's and that's where the club team, actually, it's the hat I'm wearing, where my daughters train. And so we go there, and he basically worked it out with us that we bring our Eagle Academy there on Saturday mornings, and we can do our 4v4, 5v5 games. And that's from our 5-year-olds up to our 8-year-olds.
That's awesome. That is so cool. So is it kind of a year round? Do you try to do it fall, throughout the winter, and then in the spring as well?
Yes. We used to do it spring, fall. And then I would kind of have I would try to get something going maybe with the winter and stuff, get other volunteers to help out. But now we're trying to do it. Yeah. Winter, spring, fall, summer, all the way through.
That's awesome. I think giving or just kids the opportunity just to be active and play the game at a young age and all the way through is so cool. And just the fact that you'll let's just go to the park. We'll set these goals up and we'll rock and roll. And like you said, whoever shows up number wise, we've got it. We'll play 4v4 if it needs to be 3v3, or if we've got a neutral or whatever the heck we have to do. And it all goes back to, earlier when you talked about community, and it sounds like you're doing a lot of really cool things with the high school, but you're trying to just bleed this idea all the way through from youngers up. And I think that's so stinking cool. It's kind of like making a little pipeline.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's, that's the plan. Hopefully we can get it going. I try to steer away from the whole, because in the past, and this is where we've kind of had that cultural breakdown before. And that's one thing I always say is that one little moment, one person, one, little thing can break down a culture. And then it's kind of like all over again. Culture is constantly, you have to, change and adapt all the time. So we're really trying to get down, basically put our roots in again, and, let this all grow up again and, start. I try to stay away from the whole dynasty talk. I don't want to hear it. We're not building a dynasty, we're building a future. And that's our motto right now, is we're building a future.
That is so awesome. That is so awesome. Cory, I've really enjoyed this chat. Lots of really good nuggets. I think people are going to find a lot of value from this. If they want to contact you or connect with you, what are some of the ways they can go about doing that?
So the main way that I use, and I basically use it for soccer, is the Twitter. So it's at C Reinard, I believe 08. And that's my main way to get in contact with me. And I love to sit down and talk, about soccer grassroots and, my experiences or anybody else's experiences. I really like the whole growth mindset, and, you mentioned earlier, open-ended questions and, how to apply those with coaching, and so using that behavioral side of it. So that, and I know on Twitter, that's pretty much what I post on there, because I do believe, player first. If we can change we're not there to change the player, but if we can get a player to change and think about their mindset and stuff, their motivation goes up, and we create better people.
Right on. I agree with all of that stuff. Thank you, Cory. Hey, this is Kieran, Coaches Corner Chats podcast, and I'm out. Peace.